What would you say your stance is? Do you consider yourself as a techno optimist, realist, or pessimist? And given your stance, what do you think what is your view of the future, specifically in education in the world of AI?
Depends on the day. For me, if I'm being perfectly honest, it really does depend on the day, on what I might be teaching and wanting to deliver and use it for that day. So let's say, for example, take me back a couple of weeks, and I was I'd probably say optimist. There was utilizing ChatGPT in the classroom. So what I would say is students can hold interviews with different types of people and personalities and learn from that quite nicely. And then the implementation of audio. So students started to make their own podcasts, and they were listening to things back. So this idea of being able to support students with high nonverbal, as well as then students with high verbal, and doing different things. So that sense for me is a real optimistic. And then for those of us, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, this week, but this launch of GPTs and how it's gone, that has, it's brought me down a bit. I've got to be honest, because now I try and run the same things through ChatGPT, where I want my students to go and do these interviews. And all of a sudden they're getting told they have to subscribe or upgrade to GPT-4 Plus. And I can't, it just doesn't operate the same way. And so certain days you'll get me and go, oh, this is great. There's high engagement. There's so many good things coming out of it. And other days it's just, I'm struggling to find the inspiration, and I'm kind of more realistic about, hang on a minute, this still, I wouldn't say I'm ever pessimistic, but I bounce between being optimistic and realistic.
So when I started the work at AI for Education, kind of coined the term responsible optimism. So building like balanced approaches to understanding the capabilities limitation of these tools. And so it's really interesting though, because I think we have this thing about dichotomies when it comes to technology. It's an either or. I'm an optimist or a pessimist. I'm an AI doomerist or I'm an AI enthusiast. I am a techno optimist or I'm a techno pessimist. And I just think that dichotomies don't really serve us. And what they do is they elide and they obscure the need for really intentional, deep understanding of what these technologies are, what is their potential impact, what is their current impact. And it needs to be something in which we build like a common understanding. We have to have this balanced approach of really being realistic about and pragmatic about what this technology, who is designing it, who is it being designed for, how is it being implemented, who has access, and that in itself is so important to getting to a path towards it actually being meaningful, impactful, and leading to advancement. And so that's why we came up with this idea of a techno-realist approach that takes a balanced approach, that looks at both sides, and is very open at calling out the good and the bad and naming it so that we can move towards intentional innovation to lead to actual change where we can be deeply optimistic.
So when I first read it, I was quite excited by it. And one of the reasons why was because I'm a huge fan of David Deutsch's work and the physicist David Deutsch. One of the ideas that David Deutsch has is the idea that problems are inevitable and problems are soluble, and meaning that people will always be able to come up with solutions to problems. That is human nature. And I'm a huge fan of David Deutsch's writing and the pursuit of creating new knowledge. The idea that technology is not separate from human, but technology is humanness, like it is made by humans. And the idea that it's wonderful to have people get together and want to put their energy behind ambitious projects and come together on solving really hard problems in a time where a lot of people are experiencing hopelessness at the moment. And so I think working on really big, ambitious projects was often something that got people excited and brings people together. That was sort of my initial response. And then at the same time, you're like, well, they are really interesting questions, because when you come into the education space, you're going, oh, technology is the silver bullet, or AI is now the silver bullet, solving all of education's problems. Well, that's just not true either. If you've just had to spend time in a classroom to know that technology doesn't solve all the problems. So that really, comes to ask the questions of like, well, what are the balanced approaches? What is the human machine collaboration that needs to take place? So I'm generally, wanting to explore, I think because it is inevitable in some ways. We are here now. This is the path we're going down. What do we do about it? And how do we keep going forward? What does the future hold?